Good evening. I see the topic of depression has had lot of interest. So before we start, some of you may wonder why we have kept the title as depression in women. Do men don't get depressed? Of course, men also get depressed, but women, I feel and I believe, and you all will agree to me, that women have a tougher life to deal with, more responsibilities, and with more responsibilities, more disappointments, more frustrations, thus more chances of getting depressed. So let's begin the talk of today, depression in women. Before I go into depression, what is the one common one most important difference between man and animal? When I say man, I don't mean only men. I mean humankind and animals. We have been given the power of emotion, which animals do not have. Yes, it is said that dog crying means somebody is going to die, but then not that. You see different emotions here: sad, happy, surprised, shocked, astonished. We have different ranges of emotion, and that one capability has made people suffer from depression in silence, thinking that it is just one of the emotion, one of the mood, and they have to bear with it. It is not so. Let me take you through some cases, and maybe you will identify in your group or in your friends. A 35-year-old housewife, Shalini, was suffering from chest pain, palpitation, breathlessness, headache, sleeplessness, weakness, and poor appetite for 6 to 8 months. Symptoms had increased gradually in last 1 month. She could not even walk 10 steps without chest pain and breathlessness. She had consulted many doctors, and she came in with a big file of ECGs, TMTs. Twice she was admitted in a ICU for observation. Everything was normal. And doctors used to say, nothing wrong with you. You are only imagining this. This is all psychological. But Shalini was suffering. Who likes to imagine and spend money and run around? She knew that she is ignoring her family, neglecting her family. On a relative's advice, she consulted a psychiatrist. On inquiry, it was found that in addition to the above complaints for which she was running to the hospitals, she had lost interest in practically everything, including her only son. Now, when a mother loses interest in the only child, then the family should sit up and take notice. She had no desire, no initiative to do any work, had become very irritable and developed intolerant to noise. Even her own son, who would call her out mummy loudly, will get a slap. There were frequent crying spells, and she felt that life was not worth living. It was better to die. Okay, did the same slide come up again? So she was treated, and after about 6 weeks of treatment, Shalini became a normal woman again, caring, looking after her family, and then even started tuitions, which she had never done in past. Second case is of a 24-year-old new mother, very excited, delivered a baby boy normally, healthy child. The family was rejoicing, celebrating, and then fourth or fifth day, this lady started crying uncontrolled. She had no interest in the child. She refused to breastfeed. She was so aggressive to the child. If the child didn't allow her to sleep, again, the family wondered what is gone wrong. People always think somebody has done some magic on her, somebody is feeling jealous. But no, when they consulted, this is my patient, when they consulted me, I said there is a common condition known as a postpartum depression. Depression after delivery. There is a postpartum depression, there is a postpartum psychosis. Both are treatable, curable. She was given treatment for almost 4 to 5 weeks and she became normal. But in those 4 to 5 weeks, there was even a worry that she may harm the child. Case 3. A 26-year-old female lost her husband of 29-year-old. At the age of 26, she became a widow. This is a very old story, first or second year of my practice. She was from a family where second marriage was frowned upon, and she had 3 children by that time. So naturally, she has a right to feel depressed. After all, a human being lost husband at this age. She was depressed and nobody took notice because, okay, she lost her husband, she has to sit and cry. But when the children came to me, 10 years after the father's death, who had died during Diwali days, this lady did not allow children to celebrate Diwali. She would not even give bakshis to what postmen or other people. And then the children said, Doc, we feel something is wrong. Then she had to be given antidepressant treatment, and it took long. It took really long, maybe 2 to 3 years for her to come out. She improved, but for her to be fully normal, to have a nice smile on her face, it took almost 3 years. So chronic depression, although there was a depression was due to a incidents in her life, but then to continue that long is abnormal. So then ask yourself a question. Have you ever felt depressed? Lately? You can't say 10 years ago I failed in exam, I felt depressed. No. Everybody has a right to feel depressed, but we have a right to bounce back again. Among a population of people, 50% of population is at risk of depression. It's that common. All of us will feel depressed sometime or the other. All of us may not require treatment. 50% will require treatment. For every one case that we identify, the patient feels I'm depressed. There are two who are depressed, but they do not realize. Your doctor has to identify this. Do you feel life is on hold? Nothing is moving. A lot of people went in depression in pandemic. Nothing was moving. Always confused, always pondering. Nothing cheers you. Even a fake smile you cannot put on your face. All news is bad news. Even if you get a good news, you don't feel cheerful. World seems dark. There is no ray of hope. Lamp of your life is shut off. Everything is dry. The emoticons you forward on WhatsApp are these. Never a smiley. Did you get suicidal tendencies? You may not have suicidal tendencies. You may not think I should kill myself. But do you feel that life is not worth living? Diminished sexual drive. Of course, nowadays, even in non-depressed people, because of mobile and screen time, sexual drive has reduced. But then do you feel that, okay, once you had a normal drive, now it is reduced either in you or in your partner? Recent psychomotor retardation. You are always an active person, slowing down of mind and body. You wake up in the morning and to decide what to make for breakfast takes you 15 minutes. Your mind is running slow. A life full of warmth and fun has become barren and cold. Absolutely no fun in life. All roads lead to nowhere. Do you feel a definite order is needed? Then ask yourself or admit to yourself, talk to your doctor, you may be depressed. Depressions are of two types. One is primary. This depression occurs without any reason. I'll tell you what are the causes subsequently. It's about 27%. A larger percentage is secondary depression, depression due to something. I'll again tell you more about this subsequently. And 5.2%, approximately 5% are bipolar. These people are like waves and troughs. The wave comes and then it goes down. For half the time, they are super elated. They are so excited that they can conduct a meeting of 11, 12 hours non-stop without drinking water, without eating, without going to the washroom. A lady bipolar once in mania went to a shop and spent 25,000 rupees buying blouse pieces. She just felt that she has to do big things nobody's ever done before. And then once that phase goes down, then they are severely depressed. In primary depression, which has no cause, nothing wrong happened to you. There is a childhood history of child having been depressed or a childhood trauma. 16% women will have premenstrual syndrome. Everybody knows 8 to 10 days before periods to get mood changes. 19% of family history in parents, especially mother. 21% are above age 40. This primary depression is also known as involutional depression. It occurs at a certain age. And for 23, there are precipitating factors. There may not be anything major, but something triggers. 25 to 77% of depression patients have intense suffering. Believe me, the person who takes care, the family members suffer more than the patient because the patient is suffering. Depression is kind of a neurosis where the patient is aware that what I'm doing is wrong, but there is no way he or she can change themselves, which is not inevitable. They can not suffer. It is treatable in most cases. Early treatment is better because I said that lady started treatment after 10 years, took her almost 3 years to totally become normal. So depression, is it a reaction to psychosocial factors? Is it a disease or is it a bipolar? We have to decide. But believe me and accept this, depression is a disease. It is not a mood. What are the causes? Biochemical causes. As Munna Bhai said in the movie, there is chemical locha in the brain. These are the two chemicals, serotonin and dopamine. And all the medicines which are given for depression affect these two chemical pathways in the brain. Psychological, higher expectations than what the reality is. Large expectation, large gap between expectation and reality, more frustration leading to predisposition to disposition. I know I am worthy of 70% marks, but I think I should get 90% because my mother wants me to get 90%. And I tell the world that I will get 90%. Then when I get 55, I am likely to be very, very, very depressed. Behavioral and attitudinal expectations from spouse, either gender, expectation from children. Dr. Sushma is talking, lot of women go through depression because they are mothering their child even when the child is 13, 14 years, and when the child rebels, they are into depression. Oh, what all I did for you, and this is what I get. No, not getting what is expected from family members, friends, and relatives, and financial expectation. I tell somebody I am short of money, that person should open up the wallet and give me. And depressed patients love to talk about their depression to friends, and friends are not going to listen to them repeatedly. They cannot tolerate frustration. Uncompromising, rigid attitude. Knowing that I am expecting too much, knowing that the person is not going to give me all that, but my attitude is still very rigid. So there's a lot of mental conflict. Physical conflicts become mental conflicts. Difficulty in maintaining cordial interpersonal relationship. People cannot keep relations. They only want other people to listen to them and never listen. They don't want to listen to other. A lot of strain between either husband and wife, father child or mother child, and then the tiff starts. That is the reason that a lot of children have depression in childhood. Unable to express negative emotions. They cannot express that I am unhappy, I expect this to be corrected, I don't like the way it has happened. They just bear it inside, suppressing it and finding faults in others most of the time. Tremendous inferiority complex. Now nobody admits that I feel I'm inferior. That inferiority complex make them depressed, that others are so well, others are doing so well, others are laughing, smiling, talking, chatting. I cannot do anything. Social causes: any major loss, loss by death of a close one, loss of prestige, loss of business, and failure in examination. Anything where I lose face is going to make me depressed. Now, either I can come out of it, but if I have a tendency to get primary depression, I will again not come out of it. I will go deep down into it. Occurrence of stressful events that affect emotions negatively. Somebody likes a boy in college. That boy initially responded, now goes and engages with some other girl. Stressful event, negative emotions. Quarrel with significant person. I fight with my principal or teacher. I fight with my mother-in-law. Then that negative emotion leads to depression. Children not coming up to expectations either in education or in occupation. All of us know today that a child appearing for board, the mother is more tense than the child, because she expects certain things from the child. And then if she does not get that from the child, she goes into depression. Psychological, low mood, these are symptoms. What presents? Low mood, feeling sad, markedly diminished interest or pleasure in food. So a lady who has gray hair continuously used to dye her hair very nicely. Now you see 1 to 2 inches roots gray. She has lost interest in appearance. She has lost interest in self, interest, no pleasure in food. What do you want to eat? No, I am okay with anything. I can even take chapati and milk. Food, sex, hobbies, or just about everything, which was earlier very pleasurable to her. Loss of self-confidence, frequent crying for no reason. As a doctor, when I suspect a patient to have depression, I take the patient alone in the cabin, close the door, ask her, simple question, how often do you cry? And I get my answer and I can start treatment for depression treatment. Somatization, very important point. In India, see, in US, UK, everybody has a shrink or a psychiatrist. In India, we cannot say that, oh, I want to go to a psychiatrist. People feel it is demeaning. It is not accepted socially. So people, instead of telling that I have something wrong with my mind, that I am depressed, convert it to a bodily symptom. Like the first lady, Shalini, had done. She had converted her depression to a chest pain, palpitation, this thing. So many times the patient may not have any symptoms of mood. They will have these symptoms for which there will be no fine reports. Symptoms with normal investigations. Treatment, as again, as I said, expectations are very high, much more than reality. Patients want instant treatment. My bleak life should become colorful. I want instant gratification. I should become all right immediately. Patients want, but there are no magic solutions. Depression, if you had a medicine which could correct your depression overnight or in a few days, that will be like a drug like cocaine or heroin. All these medicines have very slow effect. So you have to give enough time to your doctor to make you all right. No magical solutions. What are the treatments? Drug treatment. So all depression patients, all family members will want to say, I do not want to take treatment. Without treatment, we can't do anything because I told you there is a chemical problem in my brain. I need to alter that chemical. So drugs are required. All drugs are not bad. We have to tell patient that, oh, everybody is not mad. And then there is counseling, talking to the patient. Patient has to be told to pick up a hobby. Patient has to remain busy because we know, all of us know, even if we are not depressed, if I have free time, I will only get negative thoughts, negative thoughts, negative thoughts. I cannot get positive thoughts. Pick up a hobby. Plan to remain busy more in the morning. Why more in the morning? Because a person who's depressed is more depressed in the morning than in the afternoon or evening. You know, it is said that as sun comes up, so by noon they are okay. So a lady who's always used to wake up at 6, take bath at 6:30, do puja by 8 o'clock, ready for breakfast, now does not take bath till 11 or 12, does not change from her nightie into a dress in the morning. This I want the patient should understand. I'm going to be worse in the morning, so I have to remain busy in the morning. Talk to friends and family openly. Have a friend, have your doctor as a friend, so you can talk openly anything that comes to your mind. You should have, everybody should have a friend who will never judge you, who will never moralize on you. That is all from my side because we can't talk of drug treatment here. I hand it over to Dr. Sushma and then Dr. Shrita, and we'll take questions right at the end. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for the lovely talk. And a very good evening to everyone. My today's topic is, can you see the screen?
Yeah. Yes, visible.
Okay. So I'll be taking coping with work, home, or a sabbatical. Now, what is a sabbatical? By definition, it means a period of time when somebody, especially a teacher at a university, is allowed to stop their normal work in order to study or travel. And we are working, and due to various reasons, example, after having a kid, one takes a sabbatical. Ideally, it means I'm taking a break and I will be back. But that break usually extends into months, then years. The sabbatical does not remain a sabbatical, though we may call it so. And then a feeling of worthlessness sets in. Like, I had to leave the profession I loved, I had to leave the job I loved, dealing with mental health problems. So, coping with sabbatical, we get too involved with the child. I'm taking this example because it's a very common example we have in India. We get too involved with the child grows and becomes a teenager. But we continue to be involved with the child because over the years, that is what we have done. It has become not part of our life, but our life. Forgetting that the child now needs independence. And when the child demands independence, what are our internal thoughts? I gave up my work, my career. I gave up my independence. I gave up everything for my child or husband. And this is what I get in return. But these thoughts are self defeating. Now, we need to learn to take things as it comes. We have to make our children independent. He must have independence. If you take every decision for your child will rebel. Like sir was mentioning, this is the most common thing, This rebellion at times leads a woman to depression. See, if your mother-in-law or your husband dictates you, you will not like it. Like, it's like what to do, what not to do, how to do things. Will you like it? No, right? Same is the feeling a teenager gets. Today's kids are very smart. They can take decision on their own. Yes, there has to be a line or a limit. But so if you are in this phase, like even if your kids are small, this feeling of worthlessness has started. You have to take charge of your life. Trying to control the kid is not the answer. And how we cope, like I always feel when the real need arise, example, if there's a shortage of women of money, a female can do anything. She knows how to generate revenue. She will start a catering business from house, baking, or she will start selling something which she knows what to do, handicrafts. Here my question is, should we wait for such a situation for us to get back to life? There may be a scenario where there is no shortage of money also. In-laws say that why you need to work, पैसों की कमी है क्या, घर पे बैठो. But that feeling of worthlessness which you are going through, no one will know. Maybe in this scenario or any other scenario, start something. Now, this pandemic has taught us to work online. Things are happening online. Something like a consulting service. You may charge, you may not charge, but keep yourself busy. Half of you think, who are a small kid, that one thing has happened very good. We have got the 6-month maternity leave. That should make us wonder that do we need a sabbatical? Or can we plan and go back to work after 6 months and remain relevant? Today, like even I have a small daughter. If you talk to kids, even 1-year-old kid I've seen, if you tell them that mama needs to work, he will let you work, provided you know how to keep your kid happy. But you need to take this stance. There's another scenario where, there's a job which is very demanding and you want to take a sabbatical. It is mentally exhausting. You're unmotivated. You're depressed. The lack of interest creates a cycle. So you don't deliver to your full potential. You start feeling insecure or paranoid. And these are the questions which usually go through you. Like, what if I take a break? Whether I'm making a career suicide? Questions. Will we return to work feeling, whether we will be ready when we go back to work? The work would have changed. The people would have changed. But the question you need to ask is, whether you have changed. So let the sabbatical not be a deterrent. Let it make you realize the trust that you need to have in yourselves, that you can endure whatever lays ahead. Work stress. Now, workplace depression is real. Of course, like you are spending the best hours of your life on the office clock. While a job may not cause depression sometimes, if someone already has it, that may trigger. And something which at the workplace, if you don't have a control, if you have no say in making any decision, there is change in work culture, you don't feel comfortable, talking to your colleagues, your employer about it, even that can lead to depression. So in this scenario, you need to support your colleagues or your, if you are the owner, the employees there. There may be people who are very good masking it, but then depression is there, in some form or the other. And there are some symptoms which are more likely, you will notice if someone is trying to hide. So if you come across someone who is, was very confident, but suddenly there is lack of confidence, or the appearance of tiredness is there, most part of the day they are tired, self hygiene is poor, there are withdrawal, they suddenly stop talking to people, there is irritability, anger, and getting very emotional, they cry, or they are indifferent, they are forgetful, the performance is very low, and they try to kind of procrastinate, we'll do it later, they miss the deadlines, later I will at work. So these are something which will be available to you. So if suddenly you feel that some of your colleague or your employee is behaving in this manner, there is definitely something you need to talk to that employee. Offer support. Be flexible. So if you feel, yes, the employee has confided in you that I'm not feeling good, or they are showing symptoms of depression, be flexible, give them some flexibility at work, make a plan, maybe sit down with them that how to continue the role. You will know the concerns they have, and that may reduce the anxiety, the worry in them, and you can take over from there in helping them. Provide constructive feedback to them, because reward them when they are doing something positive, but also respect their confidentiality. It is not that if someone has confided in you, you go ahead and tell the entire office. Encourage them to talk. And if you are feeling depressed, the ones who are hearing this out, then you're not alone. India is known to have long working hours, and it comes as no surprise if many of them are experiencing depression. So there's a difference in work stress. The stress will go, this is stressor. The stress will go, the feeling of anxiousness, irritability will go once the stress is gone. While depression, it will continue. The crying will continue, the sadness will continue. And depression can hurt literally. Being sad is a normal reaction to difficult times in life, but usually the sadness goes with a little time. So this sir has already taken the various kind of symptoms which a person will go through. But certain types of depression are unique to women. It can occur at different stages of women's life. When she is in a puberty thing, she will get a PMS, which is a mild, the irritability, the anxiousness, which is usually mild. But after pregnancy, there is postpartum period where she gets that depression. So at various stages, women are, it's a unique, that different stages, they get a different kind of depression or some kind of symptoms. As I said, and even depression affects each woman differently. So even if that stage, they have a certain set of, in puberty, if you have PMS or prenatal depression, postpartum depression, it will affect each woman differently. And also the multiple roles we play, especially by the Indian women, that contributes to stress in a different way. And unfortunately, it is underreported because there's a lot of stigma which is attached with depression. And in current scenario, what is happening is it is not diagnosed, it is underdiagnosed, it is not treated. There are a lot of hurdles Indian women are facing because of this mental health. There's also lack of awareness. People are not aware that they are depressed. And as I said, there's a lot of stigma attached to it. Domestic violence, which is one of the major causes of depression in Indian women as well. And what happens in a typical Indian scenario is our well-meaning friends or family members, they tell you that just snap out of it, just be positive, you can be happier if you just try harder. But depression is not a sign of a person's weakness, or it is not a character flaw. It is sad sometimes there is no sisterhood. So if you're a friend or a family member of a woman with depression, Offer emotional support, understanding, be patient with them, and encourage them, but never distance the feelings. Encourage her to talk to you or a doctor. Remind her that with time and treatment, she can feel better. Most people with depression may need treatment to feel better, but there's a lot of times at the initial stage where a talk therapy or just a support can help them. Depression affects each individual differently, as I mentioned earlier. There is no one size fits all for treatment. But there's one thing which I would like to tell you, conclude this session is that even the most severe cases of depression can be treated. The most important thing is that you diagnose it or you are aware of it, and then from there we can take it ahead. Thank you. Preeti, you will be introducing Dr. Shrita. Dr. Shrita, you can start your session.
Sure. Thank you, Dr. Sushma. Yeah. Thank you so much, Dr. Sushma. So I'll. So hello and welcome everybody. We've heard two really great talks by Sir and Dr. Sushma. I'm Dr. Shrita Iyer and I've been associated with Inches for over a year now. And today I will be talking a little more about depression in women, and particularly in that I will be talking a little about empty nest syndrome. So before we begin, like Sir and Dr. Sushma have mentioned earlier, depression is a very real mental illness, and we need to go past all stigma that is associated with it. It can happen to anybody. There is no shame in it, and it is not a weakness. It is something that we have to accept and destigmatize in our society as individuals, and also encourage others to accept the diagnosis, to identify it, to accept the diagnosis, and work towards helping each other get out of these phases in life. So I will now begin my talk a little on empty nest syndrome. So what is empty nest syndrome? For so many people, and especially in our country, like Dr. Sushma also mentioned earlier, parenting becomes a primary source of identity. We are so involved in the kids, in their schooling, in making sure they are eating their food, in their projects that they have to do, their examinations, getting involved in the school and going to PTA meetings. All of this takes up the entire time of a woman. More so, their entire identity gets enveloped and overlapped by the needs and the wants of their children. While and doing so, like Sir mentioned, that women are also very involved in the education. So when the child has a 10th standard exam, it takes over the entire life of the woman. Now this happens for so many years together, where almost 18-20 years of your life are dedicated to making sure that your child's needs are put first and all of their requirements are taken care of. Because of this, parenting becomes the primary source of identity. You are first become a parent and then everything else. So when at say the age of 18 or 20, this child becomes independent and this child leaves this, and which has become very common nowadays, wherein children are actually leaving their houses, looking for jobs outside, going outside, becoming independent. So when the child leaves, there is a sudden void that is created in the life of this mother, where her entire day is suddenly free now, where earlier she used to be looking after the child's meals or schooling or education or extracurricular activities. Now there is nothing to fill this gap, and this can lead to some negative feelings. So what are these feelings that can be experienced? There can be sadness, there can be loss. In some cases it can go to an extreme and there can be signs and symptoms of depression. There can be feelings of loneliness. Sometimes these negative feelings become really intense and they can actually cause distress and discomfort to the person. And there is a loss of purpose or meaning in life, because your entire life revolved around taking care of your children and now they don't need you anymore. There is also this feeling that your children just don't need you anymore and you don't know what to do anymore. How can this manifest? there is conflicted feelings of an excitement and loss. So you're happy about the fact that your child is going ahead in life, is growing, is leaving the house, is becoming independent, but also there is this feeling of sadness and loss where you feel like you are losing your child. Your child is not going to be there with you anymore. Like we talked about earlier, sir, and Dr. Sushma also spoke about this. There can be a loss of purpose because your entire life revolved around your children and their needs and taking care of them, where now when you think they don't need you anymore, so that there is an absolute loss of purpose. Now here you are left questioning what it is you are doing in life or what you want to do in life, and there is this loss of identity over here. There can also be feelings of frustration and loss of control, because while initially you had a to-do list, some tasks to do, challenges in life that were associated or dependent on your children, now because they don't need you anymore, or they don't need you primarily or for most of the work that they are doing, there is this feeling of loss of control. You can't control what your child is doing anymore. You can't tell them to, you can't put in a curfew, or you can't tell them to eat something or not eat something. There is this feeling where you have lost control over your child, which is not entirely true, but it does seem like that, because you go from taking care of everything that your child needs and telling them, deciding for them what is right and what is wrong, to suddenly realizing that they're not asking your opinion anymore. This can also manifest as anxiety. If it becomes severe, it can also, there can be signs of anxiety in the individual. And it can also lead to marital problems, because there is this sense of frustration, feeling of loss of control, there's anxiety that has creeped in, which can then manifest as marital problems too. So what can we do in this case? What we have to do most, first and foremost, is to understand that your children aren't leaving you or going anywhere. They are there and they will always be dependent on you. They are just growing up, they are becoming more independent, and it is important to allow them to grow and give them that space where they can come into their own. What can help is finding a support group, because nobody is alone in this problem. It's happening to everybody around. So finding others who are going through the same feelings that you are can actually help. Talking about this situation can help with others. Finding how they coped with it can help you. Forming some sort of support group can help. It increases your social interaction also. Avoid leaning on your child for support, because you want them also to grow and become independent without being completely dependent on you, or codependent, or having a codependent relationship with your child. So you want to avoid that. You can take up a new hobby, find something that you like to do earlier, or and go back to it. Maybe before your life revolved around your children, there was something that you were really good at. Maybe you liked singing or dancing or painting, and that helped you relax. Maybe you liked yoga, and that helped you overcome struggles, or it again helped you center yourself. You can go back to those hobbies, because now there is the time to do that. You can speak to a therapist or your family doctor if you think your condition is worsening, or you can't cope. If your other modalities of coping are not working and you feel like you need additional support, you can always turn to a trained professional, a therapist, your family doctor, and speak about these problems with them. And they will definitely able to guide you and help you identify better coping mechanisms, which can help you tether yourself and come back to center again. Now, empty nest syndrome doesn't just occur when your children leave the house. It can happen when they actually physically leave the house, or sometimes they just grow up and they don't need to ask you for permission, or don't ask you questions too much, or they're not completely dependent on you. They're just grown up now. So it can happen even when they are in the house. And sometimes there can even be premature empty nest syndrome. This is when there is a shift from tween to the teen phase. From 12, 13, they're starting to grow up. They are going to they're in the 10th standard, or they're going from 10th to 11th and 12th standard, where there is where they are interacting more with their friends, where and especially in today's world, they have more access to the internet and other resources, and they're growing up faster. And this can also cause a feeling of where you feel that your child doesn't want you. So there's this feeling of unwantedness, or lack of purpose again. So emptiness syndrome can even occur when the kids are at home without them actually having to leave the house. But also, it is very important to remember that emptiness syndrome is not entirely negative. It seems negative, it seems like there is nothing good about this, but this is a chance to rediscover yourself. This is a chance to get back all those hobbies or all those things that you like to do, to immerse yourself back into work, to get more productive, to get increased generativity, become more creative, work on other relationships, increase your social circle, and just entirely in the process rediscover who you are now after your children, or apart from just being a parent. So that was Dr. Sushma, I'll hand it back to you all. If hello.
Dr. Shrita,
Yes, sir.
since we have some 10 minutes, I would like to add one aspect to depression that everybody should have in mind. You know, people who always feel that they can never get depressed, the thought generally begins from a very small thing: what will people say? In India, we are living for others. What will people say? I'll give you an example. There was a couple who, despite attempts, could not get a child. Now, I am giving you this story, which is about 35 years back. In those days, for a couple to take decision to adopt a child was a big thing. This couple decided they will adopt a child. All paperwork done. Within a month, they have to go and pick up the child. And then the mother gets into depression, severe depression. And I would keep talking to her ki, now you should be happy, no, you've taken a decision. Then ultimately she told me, no, sir, I am worried. What will people say? Now, till now, okay, we are not having a child, that is understood, nobody notices. But when I bring a child home, then it is obvious that I cannot get a child naturally. What will people say? This lady, I thought that I should not give medicine. I told her that you have to take a decision, you have to be bold. It is your child, your family. So when you bring the child, you distribute sweets in the whole building, telling them that now we have a baby. And nobody will say anything negative. And believe me, that worked. Why it worked, I am not taking the credit. The credit is that lady spoke to me very openly. So all I'm saying is, talk to someone. You should have someone in your life. Today, if you're not depressed, no, find a friend, find a person to whom you can say anything that you've done, and that person will not moralize, will not judge you, will not be judgmental. Believe me, the chances of you getting depression will be more than half. Okay, now we have any questions? Shrita will handle the questions.
So there's one question that has asked that while, since you mentioned that there is people lose interest or women lose interest in consuming food, but in certain cases during depression, there's also this tendency to eat more, and that often also coincides with menopause. So how do you tackle that, or how do you deal with those sweet cravings, especially during menopause, or increased food consumption because of depression during menopause?
See, although some women tend to eat more, but the more common thing in depression is loss in interest in food. So there are more cases we diagnosed where people have lost weight. In my practice, I have had at least 6-7 patients who lost over 20 kilos in a month. And we thought that there must be a cancer. We checked everything from cancer to HIV, and end of the time we discovered it was depression. After the person was given treatment, started putting on weight again. Yes, but some women tend to eat more and then they tend to eat wrong foods. then the craving is for chocolates, the craving is for salty foods, and that has to be curtailed. So idea is this, that you cannot not treat depression and curtail your impulses to eat chocolate. The part of treatment is that once your depression gets treated, your urges, these cravings will also go off.
So there's also one more question. If you can suggest any antidepressant in elderly with insomnia.
I saw that Dr. Vishnu, this is a platform for non-medicos. We will have on our medical CME program of depression. That time we'll talk of antidepressants.
So then there's one more question. If a person is diagnosed as with depression, will that person need to be on antidepressants all throughout the life?
No. If a person is diagnosed of depression and the person has the willingness to come out of it, the medicine is just a push. End of the day, every person, every one of us has enough strength inside to come out of depression. The medicine is going to only push you a little, and then if you remain busy and you decide that, oh, I can conquer depression, medicine can be stopped in 6 to 9 months time. But yes, bipolar disorder requires lifelong medication.
Um, so then there is a question on tips to sleep well without antidepressants.
Pardon?
So any tips to
Tips to
sleep
sleep
well
well
without?
without antidepressant. Okay. Okay. First thing is that it is a misnomer that antidepressants put you to sleep. Antidepressants are mood elevators. They are not sleeping tablets. So once your depression gets controlled, if you are not able to sleep because of your depression, you get negative thoughts. When that gets corrected, sleep will be automatic. So you don't require anything extra to sleep. But yes, there are some tips of sleep hygiene in people, even if you don't have depression and you feel you cannot sleep. There are few points. First is, a bed is for either sleeping or having sex. You cannot work in bed. You cannot sit with your laptop or a book or a phone in the bed and then try to sleep, that I will sleep, otherwise I'll keep working. Sleep will never come. If you cannot sleep for 10 minutes, get out of bed, sit in a chair, watch a movie, read a book. You'll feel groggy, go back to sleep. Second tip which helps people is a glass of warm milk. Milk has an amino acid called tryptophan, which induces sleep. Third thing is, soak your feet in water. Do not dry them. Let them dry on their own. That also may induce sleep. And lastly, do some activity in a bed. If you try sleeping, no, then the mind plays tricks. Oh God, it's been 20 minutes, I can't sleep. It's been 25 minutes, I can't sleep. The sleep will never come. More than 10 minutes, just get out of bed and do something, and the sleep will come.
So there's one more question. Do these medicines, antidepressants, have any side effects? And so also this is commonly asked, and people don't want to take any kind of medication for mental illnesses also because it's always associated with a lot of side effects, or they don't want to be associated, or they don't want to take medication. So what do you do about that, and what are the side effects?
See, most of the antidepressants, the commonest side effect is you will only get little dryness of mouth. But the modern antidepressants, even that does not happen. So if a person, like, if you are not depressed, if you are a healthy adult, your water intake should be 2 to 2.5 liters a day. Now, if you drink 1.5 liters and you complain the dryness of mouth you put to antidepressant, that is wrong. But otherwise, antidepressant patients do not get side effects. Yes, a chronic antidepressant, a patient who already has a tendency to get constipation may get constipation. But otherwise, a patient who has a healthy lifestyle eats well, drinks enough water, will not get any side effects, or rather no side effects which will force the doctor to stop treatment.
So there's one more question. Say that if a person is crying without any reason and even small problems seem like a big issue, what do you do then? And is that a sign that is to be taken seriously?
So crying without reason, if this is a recent onset thing, if it was not there before, then this person cannot handle emotion. This person is in depression, maybe mild depression. You, if you are a doctor, you should talk to this person confidently, explore, and maybe give a very mild antidepressant. This person will come out of it. The second question is, after father's death, one patient cries on seeing emotional scenes on TV. Earlier never happened. Again needs 6 weeks to 12 weeks of antidepressant therapy because he is not yet overcome the grief. See, that lady who took 10 years or 13 years to get all right, this person is not that obvious, but he's still having that grief in mind. Understand one thing, you have to talk to him that you lost your father, the memories will never fade, the grief will never go. The grief should not affect your life and your other family. So it's the way how we counsel them.
And so, what role of yoga and meditation in controlling hormonal imbalance or helping with depression also?
Yeah, yoga and meditation can help in hormonal imbalance of menopause or premenstrual syndrome. But if you have to always give time. Like when you go to a doctor and you take antidepressant medication, after 6 weeks you want to know, sir, I'm taking medicine for 6 weeks, why I'm not better? Similarly, if after yoga and meditation for 6 to 12 weeks you still have symptoms, just accept that you require medication. I always will say that yoga and meditation are complementary to medicine, not replacing medicine.
So, the role of homeopathy in depression, and can side effects be avoided? Side effects of traditional allopathic antidepressants, can they be avoided with homeopathy then?
That Sushma will answer, but I would always say that allopathy always does not have side effects. But yes, homeopathy also works. Sushma will be able to tell you better.
Yes, sir. So, like, we have been treating a lot of not only depression, like when it starts with anxiety or worry or fears. So, there are various medicines and which have been successfully treated also. In depression, also, like the primary depression, we have some great results. And they say side effects, but anything which is taken beyond a time or not taken well, like there are certain people who look up to where internet or books, who are not, the medicines have not been prescribed by a proper homeopath, even that can give side effects. So it's not that homeopathy will not give you side effect, but it has to be taken from a well trained doctor who has a bent of counseling or other factors. So that is how I would like to answer this query.
Okay, there is a question of we need to taper antidepressant medicine. Yes, no medicine can be stopped suddenly. You have to taper it off, and if you feel the patient is coming out of control, then you restart it. For those patients under suicidal thoughts, these patients should never be treated by family doctor. They should be treated by psychiatrist very, very seriously, because having a suicidal thought once is very, very strong sign, and everybody who has committed suicide successfully or unsuccessfully has had thoughts for a few months before. So don't neglect them. Don't think that the person is trying to impress you or person is trying to take advantage. Shrita, there are some questions. You will
Yes.
start from down.
Yes, sir. So we've also noted all of these questions down.
Okay, okay.
So suicidal thoughts. So there's a question at perimenopausal age, patient feels somebody pushing her and wants to cry without any reason. So again, another question on perimenopausal age and depression at that point, or crying at that point without any reason. So how do you handle perimenopausal? Is it associated with higher chances of depression at that age, or are there any changes then?
See, perimenopausal and menopausal age, definitely there is lot of very high chance of menopause, because a lady who's into her 50s has been in control of her life all throughout 50 years of control, suddenly finds that she cannot manage herself. She has hot flushes which are embarrassing. She cannot control urine. She has to rush. At times, not due to menopause, because of other factors, she laughs loudly, she dribbles urine, her skin has become dry, she has itching around private parts, she cannot enjoy sex. All these things, no, she has palpitations. All these things make her feel that, oh, I have lost my control. And then, one thing in India, family members, spouses do not understand what a female goes through in menopause. The commonest comment I have heard from women telling me, sir, my husband is telling me, when you had periods, you had headaches, you were giving me headaches. Now, when periods are gone, you are still giving me headaches. So, any person who's going through any change needs support of family. I'm not even saying depression. Like, suppose a man loses a job. What do you expect the spouse to do? If she shouts, oh, get out, don't sit at home, search for another job, that is going to be negative for him, no? So when it is expected that wife is supportive till she finds another job, similarly, if wife is undergoing through major change, the family, the children, spouse have to be supportive. That is the reason that in perimenopausal age, there is a higher chance of depression. And treatment of perimenopausal symptoms do have a small dose of antidepressants incorporated. But understand one thing, if you are entering menopause, you require a good vitamin, a good calcium, and a good nutrition. Then you will ride over menopause. Otherwise, your doctor will prescribe you mild antidepressant, which can be stopped in 6 to 12 weeks, and you will be fine. You have to accept it is a change. How pregnancy has a lot of changes in body. You accept that, no? Accept menopause also.
So should we take a few more questions, or should we cover these on the group then right now?
Take 2, 3 more, then we'll cover and reply them directly.
So one question is, how commonly is depression associated with hypothyroidism?
If hypothyroidism, treated hypothyroidism gets depression, then there are two different elements not related. Because see, that was a different time when people could be missed having a hypothyroid for 10 years. We had earlier that doctors' wives were hypothyroid, it was not detected. But now everybody knows about thyroid. Thyroid tests are done a part of full body checkup. Any lady who puts on weight wants to check thyroid. So thyroid is not a missed condition. It is treated very easily by simple medicine. So a depression occurring in thyroid cannot be blamed on hypothyroidism. They are two different conditions.
So there's
Ishma, you have a question for you. Giving back answers to mother. Mother feels she is not valued. Please give tips to relieve this feeling.
First, we need to find out why the child has started giving back answer. because there can be a lot of reasons for it. You know, a child doesn't suddenly starts and one day you starts giving back answers. So and there could be that something he is absorbing from the environment. There could be something which is troubling the kid. There could be some change, you know, in the family issues would be there. Something would be there. So first we need to address, and second thing I would say that, you know, take up a detailed history and give some homeopathy. That is how you deal with that. There are a lot of medicines with that, so it will require an individualization of the kid, but definitely it has something to do with the environment first. Need to address that first.
So first we have to see whether the mother back answers her mother-in-law or the husband. Then to expect the child not to back answer is wrong. See, if you tell, like, you know, a lot of mothers sitting at home, phone rings, they tell the child, if it is the grandmother, tell her I am sleeping. So the child understands telling a lie is okay. This child is never going to not learn to lie because you are teaching. So mother has to understand why the child is behaving like this and then take it forward. I think Shrita will put this thing. There are a lot of questions. We will reply to you directly all the questions which are there. And there are a lot of doctors. In one of the CMEs that we conduct on Thursday, we will cover depression and anxiety treatment.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much for your patient hearing and the interest and the question that came up. Thank you, Shrita.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Sushma. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining in and listening to us and putting in your questions.
Thank you, everyone.